Welcome to Ascend with Amelia, the podcast designed to equip the next generation with the skills, knowledge, and insights needed to turn their career dreams into reality. My name's Amelia, and I have been in corporate America for 20 years. I've worked across 2 different industries and 4 different career paths, but I have been where you are. I have been a young adult who had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up and wasn't sure where I fit into all of the vast opportunities that were out there. If that sounds familiar, then this is the podcast for you. But I won't be doing this alone. I'll be partnering with other like-minded professionals who are just as passionate as I am about mentoring the next generation. We're going to be talking today about their journeys, how they got to where they are today, a day in the life of their different careers and industries, and so much more. So buckle up, take notes, and get ready to start ascending toward your career goals. Let's get started. Today's guest is a powerhouse of purpose and performance, Erika Tolar. With over 2 decades of experience driving growth across global sales, AI innovation, and logistics, Erika has built billion-dollar revenue engines and transformed executive teams in some of the world's most complex industries. She's currently the Chief of Staff and Senior Director of Sales at Shipcom.ai, where she helps bring cutting-edge AI and IoT solutions to government and commercial sectors. Erika is also the co-founder and CEO of Black Keys Leadership, a modern leadership development company helping leaders unlock the unplayed notes of leadership, empathy, trust, and psychological safety. But Erika's story does not stop at the boardroom. She's a devoted single mom, a community advocate, and a bold woman of faith whose resilience, energy, and service to others have made her a role model in corporate, civic, and collegiate athletic spaces. Get ready for a powerful conversation about courageous leadership, living your faith out loud, and thriving through transformation, personally and professionally. Welcome.
Thank you, Amelia. It's great to be here.
It's so good to have you. We're going to start off with setting the stage. How do you believe your upbringing, your family, your community, or your class shaped your view of success?
So much has everything to do with where I was raised in the community, a small farming community in western Minnesota. Population 450, a small town called Graceville, Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
I was very blessed to be raised in a town that I was best friends with my cousins. I was really just so fortunate to be welcomed into a family that all we knew was hard work and dedication. So from the beginning, I can remember being in elementary school, and in the small community that we were in, you were either a farm kid or you were a city kid. And so the farm kids had to do things like pick rock or detassel corn before you went to school. And during harvest season, you got out of school at 2:00 in the afternoon, and then you had to go help in the fields before the sun went down, and you were a real part of helping put food on the table. And so that's where my hard work, dedication, discipline, all of those things were a part of everything that we did. And so all those little meaningful things as a part of being a part of a farming family, I guess you could say, really fed into what I can say contribute to what I do every single day in my job and in my career every step of the way. So all those little elements were really rooted early on in everything that we did as a family.
That. And I feel like it not only contributed to you being a hard worker, but it also contributed to your teamwork.
Absolutely.
Because it sounds like you guys had to work together to accomplish all of those goals
the family,
before and after school.
The family was the team. Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Did you feel supported in exploring different paths?
Oh, for sure. When it got to the point where we started talking about what we were going to do, what do you want to do when you grow up? There was never any question. We were encouraged to do whatever we wanted to do, and so I watched my mom work hard to raise our family alongside my dad, who was the hardworking breadwinner of the family as well. He was often gone nights and weekends. He worked for Schwann's frozen food company. When we left Minnesota and moved to Texas, when I started sixth grade, I believe, when we moved to Texas from Minnesota. And so he was gone a lot, and mom she functioned a lot like a single mom, I guess you could say, even though my parents have been married 51 years,
Wow.
which is incredible. They're just a testament to an incredibly devoted, Christian loving family, couple, and they've raised and established a family of, I'd say my sisters and I are really blessed to have incredible parents, and our whole family has been blessed to be around. I have aunts and uncles and many cousins that are of the same nature too, but my parents figured out a way to make it happen, and so they always instilled in us that we can do whatever we want to do. So I was always encouraged by that, and so yeah, I'm really fortunate to have parents that really gave us that belief from the very beginning. So.
Fantastic. What would you say? So you are super blessed, and I would say that I'm super blessed as well, having parents, family members, friends growing up that encouraged me. What would you say to the youth out there that don't have that? How would you suggest or give guidance to them to seek that out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say don't be discouraged by what you don't have. Take the opportunity to align yourself, maybe with a friend, or if you go to church, maybe a church member or a family member of a friend or a loved one within the church that doesn't. If you don't go to church, go to church. If you don't know what church is, go. Be bold. I am not where I'm at without my faith. Another thing that was instilled very early on in our family was the foundation of our faith in Christ. And so I can also, if I'm going to be very honest, it was something that we went every Sunday without fail. When we moved to Texas, the church that we went to, we drove 60 miles one way every single Sunday.
Wow.
To go to church. But for those kids that, going back to answer your question, that was a long way to get to this.
No, it was good.
Yeah. For those kids that don't have what I had or what maybe you had with having that loving structure, I can tell you that you can find it. You can find it in the walls of a church. You can find it in Jesus, and he will place it in your path. And so it will be lined up for you if you allow yourself to be open to it. And that's my advice, is to be open to it, and he will light the way for you. And so just be open to it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you kind of going a little bit deep into that. I think the biggest takeaway there is finding a positive, if you need a positive community of people, and you don't have that, church is definitely an option. So thank you for sharing your journey there. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your job and what you do today, and then tell me kind of what's the most exciting part about it.
Sure. So I get this question a lot, even from my son. I have a 16-year-old son, Gavin. His name is Gavin. He is the light of my life. And on some days, I want to strangle him by his little ears. But I am the chief of staff of an AI tech company. And so in today's day and age, all we hear about is AI. And so what that means is I report directly to the CEO of our company, and I help guide and direct and tee up the strategy for our next steps in everything that we're doing. And with the speed at which AI and technology is changing rapidly every single day, we really have to stay on top of what direction we're going to move next and how we can bring cutting edge solutions to our customers, both current and potential, in the marketplace. And so what that means is we have to, for the company and then for myself too, I have to stay incredibly aware of what's happening in the marketplace. So that requires a lot of reading and research, and my scrolling on Instagram and on
See the latest trends, what's out there.
it's very intentional. It is not dead scrolling just for fun and kicks and giggles. It is reading with intentionality and scrolling with intentionality, and really being mindful of what's happening in the marketplace, and following those trends in tech and helping to see what's happening, because whether we realize it or not, AI is getting smarter at a rate and speed that is compounding faster than we can imagine. Every 3.3 months, AI is doubling in its capacity of knowledge and speed at which it's coming to the marketplace. And so that's hard to comprehend. And so for us to be able to not only understand and digest that, but then to package it and bring it to a customer and then make it make sense for their business, that's a lot. So in order for us to then make it make sense for our business, helping to keep our company on track, that's one of my main responsibilities. And then also driving government sales for the company is one of my primary responsibilities. So I work very closely with the U.S. government, creating what's called bespoke solutions, which
New
is
solutions.
and very customized solutions for the U.S. government. So anything for right now, we're working on a very customized solution for the Army and Marines and Air Force. And so think the Marines who are on the front line fighting the fight, if you will, against China, everything. We're trying to beat China and the bad guys out there. And in order for us to do and what we need to do to bring technology to that front line better and faster, to make communications from that fighter jet in the sky and the Air Force who can see everything in the sky, and communicate with that Marine that's on the front line in the desert, that communication path. Our Shipcom is helping to create some technology with cybersecurity solutions and a communication plan and a network that has zero trust cybersecurity and a 5G solution that is an end-to-end solution, all together in one total package. And those are some of the things that we do at Shipcom.
That's really exciting. I feel like, the next generation, our generation didn't have, of course, AI. I mean, I feel like we were around when we had the dial phones,
Right, yeah.
So I feel like a lot of this next generation is really truly embracing AI and what that means for not only work, but their day-to-day life. What are some kinds of jobs that are within your company that could be a good entry-level job for someone interested in AI?
Yeah. Great question. So we have a lot of different types of developer jobs. And what's interesting is the jobs that we have today will probably be obsolete in the next 2.5 to 3 years. So if one of your listeners is 15, by the time they graduate high school, that job may not even exist. And the job that may exist for them when they graduate, by the time they graduate and they could go to college and get a 4-year degree, or maybe they graduate and they get a 2-year AI certification degree by that point. That is something that could exist too by the time, that's how fast technology is advancing. And that should be very exciting for your listeners too. Things that they're sitting in high school and still learning don't even exist for them. And so, so to answer the first question, developing coding jobs probably won't exist because AI will fully take over.
That's a great point.
Coding. However, the systems thinking behind the AI jobs will always be there. So the students that are able to understand systems thinking will be the ones that will always have a place in the workforce, no matter what career they go into. So if you are, only 3% of people in general are born as systems thinkers. So if you think about that, genetically, humans, only 3% are wired as systems thinkers. So that means the 97% of us,
The rest of us.
the rest of us have to learn how to become systems thinkers. I talked to Gavin about this, and
I feel like most of us, right? It's not even the next
Well, that's me
generation.
too.
It's right. I'm same.
we have to work to become systems thinkers. And what does that mean? That means we're asking if-then questions. So even somebody who likes history, if you're somebody listening that loves history and loves reading about wars, if you're to be a systems thinker and to learn about history and love history, that means when you're reading about history or learning about it as a systems thinker, you're asking if-then questions. Well, why did they, when they were attacking, why did they attack this way? Why did they use this weapon? If they did it that way, then why did they do it that way? So it's
Critical thinking skills.
Very much so. So I think that's the biggest thing that all students, no matter what career field they want to go into, it's becoming systems thinkers that we all have to figure out how to develop and shift into the new world that we're all stepping into. And that's not just students, that's the developed workforce that's already out there. And students can have a leg up on a workforce that has been out there working 10, 15, 20, 25 years,
Absolutely.
40 years. If you're a systems thinker that can step in and learn how to work with the AI, you can immediately step in and make an impact. So that's the encouragement. That's the second part of the question. So no matter what job exists within a company, when your students and listeners are ready to enter the workforce, if they have that systems thinking and they know how to apply it, they'll be able to land any job in any industry.
Agreed. And you work specifically for an AI company. But
Yes.
to your point, every company, every career field, every industry out there is trying to figure out how to incorporate AI into their workforce, into their strategy, in their day-to-day workings. They're all thinking about that. So, if you are a part of the next generation and you're spending, 4 to 5 hours of your day learning about AI, to your point, that's going to give you a leg up even on some of the seasoned workforce members that are out there.
I will say there will always be a need for project engineers within, at least within our space. The component of working on a team, being able to execute against project deadlines. So project engineers, DevSecOps, what that means is development, anybody who can execute against very specific deadlines, engineering components of a particular project. We have a lot of those types of jobs that exist on particular projects that require certain skill sets. Those will be around for the foreseeable future, and there will be a place for that. And that teamwork component, always being able to work with others, that requires skill sets of communication, flexibility, listening. Those are intangible skills.
And we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to the intangible skills here in a second. Let's go back to your industry and the competition. So what's a trend in your field that people should be paying attention to?
Yeah, so kind of what we've been talking about, it's just the rate and pace of change. So I think that's one thing that is probably the hardest for people to grasp right now is how quick things are changing. So the trend of upskilling. So what I've seen, at least within, and I'll just be very specific, within the last 6 months, right? 3 to 6 months, the rate and pace of change within the AI space. You can look at just within the last 3 weeks, the number of
AI engines
that have come out, the number of improvements to Grok, to Claude, to Anthropic, improvements to ChatGPT. We've seen all of these. It's the rate of pace of change is so significant that it's unlike any other period of time. I'll try to put another relative example. Okay, so for your audience too, back when cars, when cars existed, you got to rewind back to, and this is a little bit of a history lesson. So if you go back to 1910 is when around about the time when the horse and buggy was introduced. Okay, so
that was the newest thing at the time.
Newest thing,
all the rage.
All the rage. Horse and buggy, and so most of the jobs were fit around people who could service horses. So think the horseshoe, changing horseshoes on the horses, and the being able to service the buggies, and this was incredible because people didn't have to walk anywhere. They had the latest and greatest technology. I don't know if that was the word they used back then, but being able to put a horseshoe on the bottom of a horse to help them walk faster and longer, and then to tie a buggy on the end and put people in that buggy and carry them. This was game changing, right? 1910. Fast forward to the advancement of the first automobile in 1950, roundabout 1950s, when Ford Motor Company comes out with the first vehicle. Okay, so that's about a 40 to 50 year period. Okay, so it took that long to advance to the first vehicle. What we will see from 2025 to 2030 is the same type of advancement that it took to go from 1910 to 1950. I mean, that's fantastic. It's almost mind-boggling to think about the amount of advancement that it took to go 40 years will happen in round or about 5 years with the advancement of AI. There's so many other things that I could go down the road on.
Well, that just means we have to be really nimble, right?
Nimble. And then also when you hear people like Elon Musk talk about how fast it's changing, and this word governance. So governance really just means structure and rules, right? So, oh my gosh, students, nobody likes rules, right? But rules are there to protect us and for safety. So what happens when we don't have rules?
Chaos.
You can have mass chaos. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie. Have you seen iRobot? Back the Will Smith
Oh
movie?
gosh,
Back
a long time ago.
Okay,
yes.
right? Crazy, right? I remember watching the movie thinking, who makes this up? Who are the writers that write this kind of thing? I mean, here we are, folks. Like, it could happen.
In the thick of it.
It could happen. We could see iRobot playing out here in the next
don't say that.
rebuke it. But having rules in place, and it's important, especially when in the context of AI. And there aren't rules. When you hear the 4 or 5 creators of the main AI engines that really drive all of AI in the world today, share the same concern at a very significant level about the level of fear, and they've all used that word about what could happen with AI,
with no regulation,
with no governance, no rules. There's something to be said about that, and so it's something that to be watched very closely over the coming weeks and months. What's the date of what's our date today? Date the episode, because it's one that we'll want to watch closely for sure.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. AI is definitely something that is in the forefront of everybody's minds. And when you talk about governance, I think that's other jobs that are going to be available for the next generation.
Absolutely.
Is writing the laws and writing the regulation and the rules around how people utilize AI. So thank you for that. Is your job a typical 9 to 5, or do you have more control over your schedule?
Oh, I wish it were 9 to 5. Actually, I don't know if I wish it were 9 to 5. I have never had a 9 to 5 job. It is not 9 to 5. Shipcom is a very entrepreneurial company. Okay. Our co-founder and CEO is what we refer to as a Silicon Valley CEO mindset. So okay. Silicon Valley being California, born and bred minded CEO where the tech boom started. Mm-hmm. All that means is they don't sleep. It's keeping up with that pace mm-hmm. and rate of change. In fact, our tagline at Shipcom is the speed of relevance. And so we deliver the speed of relevance to our customers and potential clients. And the way that you deliver the speed of relevance is not on a 9 to 5 schedule. Mm-hmm. So
if things are changing so rapidly, you can't be on a 9 to 5 schedule.
And that comes at a cost, we don't even talk about work-life balance. It's a work-life synergy. And so that, especially when you've got the predominance of our company is engineering and operations based. Mm-hmm. And so many of them work, late night hours mm-hmm. and development is often in that space. And so we figure out what synergy works for us, and Shipcom is much like a family. And so you figure out what works for you. We have a lot of folks that travel back and forth to India. We have largely our company is Indian based, mm-hmm. and so our CEO is from India. Mm-hmm. He and his family. Now we're an American owned company, mm-hmm. American based, but we have lots of culture from all over the world that make up our company. And so lots of diversity celebrated within the company. And so with that, that synergy really is created for each employee on their own. And so what that looks like could be, if you have to take your son or daughter to a soccer game at 4:30 in the afternoon, and then you go have a family dinner, and then you put your son or daughter to bed at 8:30, and then you get back on and you go do your work from 9:30 till midnight, and then you catch a couple of hours of sleep, and then you wake up and you're on a conference call from 5 a.m. until 7:30, and you wake up and you do morning routine and get the kids off to school. And that's work-life synergy, right? So for me personally,
yes. What is your day? What is your specific daily grind look
My
like?
daily grind is I usually wake up with the sun. So whenever the sun breaks the window pane for me, that's when I wake up and I do a morning meditation routine. And I have some student athletes from Stephen F. Austin that are still kind of my adopted jacks, we call them. And we share some Bible verses and do some exchanges there. And then I have some morning music right now. My rotation, I'm a huge Forrest Frank fan right now in the Christian music scene. So Forrest Frank and Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham are my top three right now. So I listen to those three are kind of on repeat right now for me. I do that. And then I spend very intentionally my 1 to 2 hours of my AI scrolling or podcasts or just listening and reading in the morning, and that's all before about 7:30 to 8 in the morning. And then I get on, do my usually first call with a client, or I may just have a quick 15-minute catch up with a business development check-in for the day with the team, and or a client call, and then that just kind of kicks off the day. That's one thing at Shipcom. We don't get bogged down with too many meetings because meetings are keep us from progress, and so.
From moving fast.
From moving fast. You
right?
cannot move fast when you're bogged down in meetings. So that's one thing I appreciate about our leadership team. We all definitely feed into that. And so our focus is really on the customer and trying to understand how can we move faster. And so as soon as we're done with an engagement with the customer, we're immediately trying to get information back in front of them, or if it involves researching or writing a white paper to drum up draw a demand signal in the marketplace, to then, especially in the government space, if we're trying to create a demand signal, or we find out a demand signal, great question. A demand signal is finding a problem, or hearing or learning of a problem that exists in, let's say, in one of the armed services, and then that creates a demand for a problem. Then we have to go find the money within the armed services, within a budget, so that to create, then therefore creates the demand to then marry up the two to write a proposal, and then go down the process of creating an RFI, which then creates request for information, which then can create a request for proposal, which then can create that whole purchasing process
turns
within the
into
government.
You potentially getting the business from the government.
It's a very complex process within the government. So that's the simplest way to say it, and that may scare off all of your listeners from changing.
Well, a part of what we're talking about is getting the listeners, the youth or the next generation, to start hearing terms. You're going
Yeah.
to always hear some of the terms that are on this podcast. You're going to hear RFIs and RFPs, which are requests for information, requests for proposals. You're going to hear that a lot. You're going to hear the term strategy a
Okay, yeah.
lot. So trying to get them used to hearing some of these terms in the midst of a conversation and as it relates to someone's career
I
is
love that.
perfect.
That's great.
That's exactly what we want.
Well, and also good for them to know that a lot of companies, a lot of industries have their own, what they call books of knowledge, if you will. They could have their own dictionaries, right? When I
Well,
worked,
that's great to point out.
yeah, like when I spent 20 years at FedEx, a lifetime. My first 20 years was working at FedEx, and FedEx had their own book of knowledge, and it was like the FedEx dictionary, and published online, search engine just for FedEx employees, because you had to have that.
You have your own terminology, you have your own acronyms.
Yeah.
That's every company. And if I could just pull the thread on that a little bit more, that's something that I think when I first started, it was a little overwhelming.
Very
People would
overwhelming.
start throwing out terminology and acronyms, and I wouldn't know what was going on. I think letting the next generation know that that's definitely something that's going to happen.
And it's
fine.
normal. Yeah.
Breathe. It's normal. Just, read it. It may be a little bit like you're back in college for a little bit,
Oh.
trying to learn all of the terms.
When
but-
I started at Shipcom this year in 2025, I started learning the government for the first time. I had never worked with the government, and it was terminology overload. And I just had to pause. And do you know what I had to help me? Chat GPT.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We didn't have that growing up. So
Yeah.
it's been such a pleasure experiencing.
They're so
all of the
lucky
AI.
they have all these tools now.
Oh,
Yes.
I think they know.
Yeah,
They know.
yeah.
So going kind of back to your daily routine or your daily
Yeah.
grind, I think how you set it up is pretty amazing. Your setup is going to be different than my setup, but I think the biggest takeaway there is having some kind of structure to your day, no
Yeah.
matter what you're doing. Waking up and listening to music, waking up and having that one person that you talk to, eating a healthy breakfast, then going into work, and kind of having that structure is a huge thing, no matter what industry or what career type that you're in. What is one entry-level job that sets you up for success, and how did it help?
Well, the first job that I had straight out of college was really kicked off my 20-year career at FedEx. It was an entry-level job into sales. It was an inside sales role that I could have never imagined would have teed me up for a 20-year career that I had.
Humble beginnings.
Yeah, very humble beginnings. If anything, I learned very quickly that inside sales was not a career for me. In fact, I almost didn't make it past my 6 months there. I got to my 6-month mark and I almost quit. I thought coming out of college, you're riding a high, think you know everything about everything. I just graduated college and I quickly was humbled and learned I didn't know anything about anything. And
We all go through that.
Yeah, I was frustrated. I was overwhelmed. I wasn't making any sales. I was really beat down. I was 3,000 miles away from home. I started in Phoenix, Arizona. I was making $28,000 a year, which is below the poverty line. I couldn't afford
Plus commissions. Plus
Okay.
commissions.
Did I say I wasn't making any sales? So I couldn't afford to live on my own in an apartment. So in Phoenix at that time, that's right when real estate was at its peak in Phoenix. So I was living with my sister and her husband, which ended up being so amazing because my sister gave birth to her firstborn and I got to share a wall with my nephew and it was awesome. He ended up being my godson and he's 20 let's see, 23 now. And yeah, awesome. But it was overwhelming. And I was really fortunate to have a mentor at that time that just poured into me, and he sat in the cubicle right next to me and it was like, Erika, just stick with it. It takes a lot. You're just getting started. You're doing great. You are so talented. You're gonna get this. Nobody gets it right out of the gate. And I'm just like, this guy's crazy. What does he know? He doesn't know me. And then I don't know what to tell you, Amelia, but it was like all of a sudden things started clicking. And I was screaming I was telling you, my whole spiritual experience happened about at that time. And I was screaming at God too, like, oh, God, I'm out in Phoenix. Like, what am I doing here? And sure enough, things just started clicking. And I don't know what to tell you, but it just started happening. And I quickly learned that, okay, inside sales wasn't for me, but I changed my frame of thinking and I looked at it as my extended training ground for my next. And things started sinking in. And sure enough, once I did that and I had my mentor and I was disciplined, right? I kept doing exactly what they said to do. And I was a rule follower to a point. I always kind of dangled over the line a little bit, but I always had the gumption to come back, right? So I was the tester in my family too, out of the three of us girls. But I always knew the line and how far to push it. So I would say the same in work too. I would always push the line a little bit. And so this would be what my line pushing was. Once I started to kind of click and connect and started hitting the top of the leaderboard a little bit, I knew I couldn't stay in this environment. Just inside sales wasn't for me. But I learned the structure, the discipline, working a system and a process, and really staying committed to it. And sure enough, things started to happen. But I also started to reach out to field sales managers out in the markets where I thought I would want to go next. So I wasn't waiting to reach out to those managers when the next job was available, because I had an 18-month commitment to that inside sales job. So I had another 12 months, whether I wanted to or not. If I was going to stay at FedEx, I had to stay another 12 months. So I didn't just sit around and twiddle my thumbs. One thing about FedEx is a performance-based company. So you had to perform. But if you performed, you could create your own career path. So once I started performing, I reached out and I said, you don't know me, but I'm going to be your next field sales rep.
Wow.
So, and I want to be on your bench. So here's my eligibility date. So I want to get to know you so we can build a relationship. And, half of them are like, who is this person? Right. And then there were a couple of them are like, oh my gosh, I like this chick. Right. And so that's exactly what happened. So when my eligibility came up, they knew exactly who I was. And when they had an opportunity, in fact, the opportunity that I got next, it so happened that the job wasn't available, but she ended up extending the post to allow me the opportunity to apply.
Now that's the epitome of networking. We're going to talk about networking here a little bit more later on in the program, but let's pull the thread a little bit on 2 points that you just mentioned: mentorship and not quitting. From a mentorship standpoint, I think the biggest thing we could suggest to the next generation is, as soon as you get in any role, I don't care if you're working at McDonald's on, the French fry line, or if you are starting your first job out of college, finding someone who you see is doing a good job, who has a positive attitude, and relying on them to help coach and guide you is key and critical.
It's so important.
To your point, you would have probably quit if you didn't have this mentor, right?
Yes.
And then going back to the quitting portion, I can't say enough how 9 times out of 10, when someone graduates from college, they're not going to start with their ideal job.
Right.
But the job that they start with, just like in your instance, it's going to at least check off the box of, okay, this is not something that I want to do. That's one. And then it'll also be teaching you something that you can learn for the job that actually is your ideal.
And it definitely, yes. And it framed me up and it better positioned me for against the person. There were a couple of people who were field sales reps coming externally outside of the company that didn't have any of the internal knowledge that I did. They had 10 years of from a competitor, but they didn't have any of the internal knowledge that I did. So that gave me a leg up, and it positioned me where she was willing to take a risk on me with my internal knowledge versus the external knowledge from those coming from the competition. And it paid off. It definitely paid off. So yeah, the other part on the mentorship, man, it is so important. It humble yourself. You don't have to be
Right all the time. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room.
Don't. In fact, it's so much better to just say, you know what? I don't know. I don't. I am so fortunate to have so many people that have helped me along my journey in so many different ways. I've had some really incredible mentors that have become much more than mentors. They've become close lifetime friends, and I just wouldn't be where I'm at in my life without them. I can think of a couple in particular that have helped get me into positions that I would have never thought I would be even equipped for, or even that would have even helped me in my career in ways that I would have never thought. So yeah, it just really, really appreciative for the mentors that I've had, and humility is a blessing.
Absolutely.
And it took me a lot of stumbling to get to where I'm at. But I'm grateful for every mentor that I've had. So shout out to all my mentors out there.
Shout out to my mentors
Yeah.
too. So you talked a little bit about networking earlier.
Yeah.
You know, how you had an 18-month stint, but at month 6, you started reaching out to different folks within the organization. What outside of work, what organizations, mentors, or communities have helped you level up professionally or personally?
Yeah. So FedEx afforded me the opportunity to get involved professionally in a lot of different things representing the company that allowed me to expand my brand, both personally and professionally. And then I just kind of took it from there. I didn't wait for anybody to tell me I could do anything. I just kind of took it and ran. And so there are life circumstances also kind of just pushed me into some opportunities as well. So I certainly through FedEx, I was afforded the opportunity to be a part of the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce. I was on the board there for many years in Houston. And every woman that I have been afforded the opportunity to network with and grow a relationship with there has paid dividends tenfold. And that's not because I just, because I expected anything out of it. It's just because these women are just like me. They want to give back just like you. You want to give back because that's just who they are. And we also just happen to be in positions that are with our companies that work for companies that want to do the same. And so the Women's Chamber is one. I also served on the Board of Trustees at the Council on Recovery in Houston for 8 years. So Gavin's father was, unfortunately, we are divorced, and when Gavin was 3, and he struggled with addiction. And so I learned a lot about addiction through that process, and that's his journey to talk about. But my journey in that process was learning about addiction and through family recovery and what addiction is and what it is not. And so anybody that has struggled with addiction, either personally or has been affected by addiction, which is, oh, by the way, 100% of everybody. You either know somebody or have a family member or friend who has been affected by the disease of addiction. It is learning how to live through and or with that disease. And it is a disease. It's not a choice. And it took me 3 years of going through and learning through my own denial and codependency and what it is and is not, and helping to make sure and set the stage for Gavin when he was 3 to grow and learn in his own way and capacity of what addiction is and is not through his journey, growing from a toddler now up to 16 on what addiction is and is not. So through that incredible organization in Houston, they have what's called the Center for Recovering Families. And so that organization, by the way, that has businessmen and women who also struggle with addiction, whether they're recovering addicts or also our family members, just like myself, learning how to live with the disease of addiction. They have an incredible board, advisory board, and board of trustees. So that's been an amazing leadership period that served there. And then one of my large passions also has been serving at Stephen F. Austin State University as the board president of the Alumni Association, and being able to give back to student athletes. And this is how you and I met.
Absolutely.
Through Lady Jack
Networking
Volleyball.
at its finest.
Yeah, exactly. Through Lady Jack Volleyball, being able to give back to that program where we started our roots, in Lady Jack Volleyball through Debbie Humphreys and her incredible legacy. I think she's starting her 38th year this year, or 39. And so...
we love you, Coach.
Yeah. Go Jacks. That just that mentorship that happens. I mean, we would have never met had we not been a part of that program, and being connected through that program, and just knowing that as women who have been through the Lady Jack Volleyball program, I wouldn't be who I am had I not been had to work for her. And she has high standards and expectations, and certainly knowing that and working under that for the 3.5 years that I did with Debbie Humphreys set me up very well going into my years at FedEx. And I think that definitely helped me set a tone. That combined with my early childhood years I talked about earlier, I mean, I could have not had a better recipe card for success.
And we've been talking a lot. We talked a lot about community, that building that community at the beginning. I think one of the other things that we could give to the next generation is community is so important in every aspect of your life. And, just like you said, the organizations that you just listed, those 3, those organizations have not only helped you professionally, but they've helped you personally. They've helped you build your leadership style. They've helped you be able to network with different types of people going through different struggles in their life. So that is huge. I feel like if I could say one thing, I would say make sure that you join an organization that aligns with you, your values, and where you want to be, and it will help you tenfold get to where you want to be.
Couldn't agree more. And some of, going through that difficult personal journey that I did have through a period of time when my career was just really starting to explode, I couldn't have made it through it without the Council on Recovery, without Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, and without the sisterhood of my volleyball sisters from Stephen F. Austin. Some of my closest teammates from SFA volleyball during that period of that 3 to 5 year period of the girls that we were just attached at that time. I didn't know you. I mean, that's the coolest thing. We have a gap between, we weren't at the program at the same time, but because we have that networking piece, we met at an alumni reunion, and it was being willing to open up and say, hey, you look like you're going somewhere, and we happen to be in the same network, and that's pretty cool. We should probably know each other. So I wouldn't be where I'm at without that sense of community, and really encourage that for all of you who are listening, to find a group, find a community that can help support you. Nobody should ever be alone.
And you don't have to be. There's so many organizations that are out there. You don't have to be alone. If you're feeling that way, just try out a few different organizations and see where you fit. Last question for you. What soft skills have made the biggest impact on your success?
Oh, yeah. This one took me a while and through some failures. The art of listening. It's lost. I learned it in training multiple times.
On the job.
Yeah.
On the job
I was told this in so many classes and never really got it until I got it. And I think learning how to listen really is a lost art. And if you can really stop the thoughts going through your mind and really stop preparing for the next question you're going to ask and truly listen to what's coming at you, people will tell you exactly what you need to hear, and it will get you to that speed of relevance. If I've learned anything in Shipcom as quick as I have in the 7 months that I've been there, it's that, and really being able to listen to learn, and not just acting like I'm listening so I can say, yeah, I'm listening.
For the record, everyone, if you can get that skill, you will be leaps and bounds above anyone.
Top 1%.
At least 75% of the
I'd say top 1%.
I mean, I'm still learning that as well. And I've been in the organization, or I've been in corporate America for 20 years. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So that is a wrap for today's episode. A huge thank you to Erika for joining me and sharing such valuable insights. I hope all of you have gathered some gems to add to your proverbial toolbox. As always, onward and upward. See you next time.